Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series 74 Deluxe Class Revenge of the Fallen Bumblebee and Sam Witwicky. Now the way in which this figure here has been released is completely different from any other Studio Series figure, and by that I mean it's actually been released as part of a Bumblebee subline titled Buzzworthy Bumblebee, and that's even before Hasbro have officially announced Revenge of the Fallen Bumblebee into the Studio Series lineup. So really confusing. I'm pretty certain that we will get official confirmation that this figure will also be released in the upcoming Studio Series line, although at the moment he is currently only a part of the Buzzworthy Bumblebee assortment. But nevertheless, here we have the figure and of course Sam Witwicky. Now when it was rumoured that we were going to be seeing an ROTF Bumblebee and Sam Witwicky, I was actually quite intrigued to see as to what Hasbro would come up with. I was almost certain that we were going to be seeing a completely new head sculpt with this Bumblebee, perhaps with his battle mask retracted. I also believed that the Sam Witwicky figure would be very similar in comparison to the Revenge of the Fallen Human Alliance Sam Witwicky. However, unfortunately, what we get here is basically just a repaint of the original 07 movie Bumblebee with some slight modifications made to the front section of the vehicle mode, a semi-decent paint deco, as well as a static Sam Witwicky figure which looks very similar to the one that came with the MPM Jazz. Starting off firstly here by taking a look at what may or may not be the main event of this set, here we have the included Sam Witwicky figure, the first Sam Witwicky to be introduced into the Studio Series line, despite him being the main human character across the first trilogy. And I've got to say that this here is a massive disappointment. As mentioned in my opening segment, when listings leaked that we were going to be seeing an ROTF Bumblebee with a Sam Witwicky, I thought that we were going to get something along the lines of the Human Alliance Sam Witwicky, which would have articulation and would resemble somewhat of what we saw from the character. However, this here is awful. It looks like a generic man in a black hoodie, which is actually, I believe, Sam Witwicky's 07 look, and looks nothing like how we saw him in the Revenge of the Fallen movie. To add further insult to injury, Hasbro have not painted the eyes nor the mouth, creating for a very emotionless expression and honestly something which looks rather horrifying. And we also have this massive black plinth that the figure is indeed stuck on. I think this here to be useless, and for the Studio Series first release of the main human protagonist in the first trilogy, I find this here to be a massive letdown. Now, if this figure here does seem vaguely familiar to you, that is because it is basically just a reversed and slightly downscaled version of the Sam Witwicky that we did get included with the MPM version. You can see here that the pose, as well as the overall design here, is pretty much spot on. All they appear to have done is remove the Allspark and flip the pose around so that the arm is now facing in the opposite direction. You can see how we have the same awful black plinth and the same emotionless expression. Once again, another incredibly lazy release here by Hasbro. Maybe if they would have sculpted him in the more accurate costume, I could have been a little more forgiving, but as it stands, this is definitely a really lackluster release, and if you are purchasing this set solely for the Sam Witwicky figure, I would definitely say that this is an easy miss. Moving along now by taking a look at Revenge of the Fallen Bumblebee himself, very similarly to the included Sam Witwicky figure, I find this release here to be a massive letdown and is really a missed opportunity. Hasbro could have given us something great and something that fans of the live action movies would crave for, but instead they gave us just a very lackluster repaint and slightly modified version of the already released 07 Studio Series Bumblebee. Starting off here firstly by taking a look at the head sculpt, this has got to be the area which aggravated me the most, as this is not the head sculpt that we were all craving for. Everyone wanted a battle mask less head sculpt than as opposed to his battle mask look. Now whilst he does have this look when he does fight off against Rampage, we've already seen this head sculpt before, and as for the most part this being just a repaint, I really do believe this to be incredibly lazy by Hasbro. We have got some nice sculpt work going along here for the torso, and it is merely just this torso section here which is indeed a new sculpt, and I've got to say that I do think it looks really awesome and certainly does match what we see in the movie. As we take a look here for the arms, you can see some nice metallic silver. However, the forearms have been left completely bare, which when comparing them looks very odd in my opinion. We do get some nice silver paint here for the outer forearm armor, and then as we turn our attention here down to the lower region of the figure, they have completely decided to deck this region here out in silver, but leave the entire lower section of Bumblebee just a plain grey, and they haven't even painted the toes in the more movie accurate yellow. Once again, I think this looks awful. We do get some nice silver here for the shins, but the feet are just a complete bare black plastic, and he only comes with the same arm cannon accessory that we saw on the original version, which very similarly to the original version has got no paintwork applied to it whatsoever and has merely just been cast out of a black plastic. As far as articulation is concerned, it is the same, so we get a ball joint here at the head which can look left to right as well as look up and down. Ball joints here at the arms which are slightly restricted due to the back kibble. We do get ball joints here at the elbows which can bend to 90 as well as rotate left to right. Full 360 rotation here at the waist. The legs can kick forwards that far as well as back to that far. He can do the splits. Full 360 rotation here just below where the thigh is, a 90-degree bend here at the knee, and then finally taking a look here at the foot. If you disengage this panel, you are able to rock the foot side to side. So as far as articulation is concerned, despite it being the same as the original version, it is still a very well articulated Bumblebee, and the mold in general is very well done in my opinion. It's just that when comparing it to what we could have got, this here to me certainly does fall short, mainly in regards to the head sculpt and the lack of paint here to the lower section of Bumblebee's legs. Here for the 07 and ROTF movie Bumblebee size comparison, as mentioned throughout this review, for the most part the new ROTF Bumblebee is basically the same as the one we've already previously gotten. Now don't get me wrong, it may appear as if though I am absolutely bashing the new ROTF Bumblebee. I do actually prefer the shade of yellow, borderline orange, that we do get on this particular version. That has always been my preferred look for Bumblebee, and I've never been a massive fan of the actual Camaro that 07 Bumblebee did indeed obtain. Now enough about the similarities. As far as differences are concerned here for robot mode, besides the paint apps, you can see that he has indeed got an entirely modified upper chest region, and this here is an attempt to better match his Camaro design from the ROTF movie. In my opinion, I much prefer the chest design here on the newer version than compared to this version. You can see how this section here is slightly larger than compared to this one. The slits for the actual headlights too are a little larger, and we also do get a little more black paintwork used here for the upper chest than compared to this release. Now that may or may not be the reason as to why they have decided to skimp out on the yellow here for the feet, but the feet in my opinion look atrocious. Now it may be possible to actually switch these out as they are only on pin joints, however I cannot really see a way in which you would do so without damaging the figure. So as far as robot mode goes in general, I'm still preferring this 07 design despite preferring the colour used here on the ROTF version. However, when we do get them into vehicle mode, believe me, it is an entirely different story, and if you are picking this figure up solely for the ROTF 09 Camaro alt mode, then you are definitely going to be in for a treat. Turning now to the transformation here for Bumblebee, to begin with you're going to want to turn your attention here to the back and just lift these sections here up like so. What I then recommend doing is turning your attention here to the torso, rotating this here all the way around so that the front is now facing the back. We can then take this section, lift this entire piece up and just extend that, and then also extend this. I was very impressed on the original release as this certainly did harken back to how the MPM 03 Bumblebee did convert. What we can then do is take these pieces, just elongate those on either side, take the joint below the thigh, rotate this so that the front is now facing the back, and repeat the same process. We can then turn our attention here to the feet. You're going to want to hinge this section here down and extend this until this completely recesses within that gap. Of course, come here to this side and repeat the same process. So hinge this down and extend this. We can take these pieces, just hinge that up, and of course repeat the exact same process here on the opposite side, ensuring that these here stay down. What I then recommend doing is taking the shin guard, rotating this here all the way around, and of course repeat the same process here on this side. So just rotate this. We can then take this section, disengage it from this tab and slot, which will then allow us to fold this in, and then you can turn your attention here to this, fold this out of the way to allow for some clearance, and just collapse all of this in here just like so. And then take this piece, this tab will peg into this slot, snap that in there, and of course repeat the same process here on this side. So take this here, disengage this joint, and bring this here all up and over, snap that nice and securely into place. We can then turn our attention here to the shin guards. These are going to collapse inside, and then that will then allow us to tab these in nice and securely. Now what you are supposed to do is take these sections and actually tab these together. However, I've not been able to do it on either of my Bumblebee copies, so please feel free to let me know down in the comment section below on whether or not your Bumblebee does indeed tab together a lot better than mine. What we can then do is take this torso region, disengage this here, and lift this entire section up, bring this down to allow for some clearance. Take the arms, hinge those around and bring them down. Of course, repeat the same process here on the opposite side. So take these arms, bring those down until we are left with something that looks along the lines of this. Repeat the same process here on this side. We can then hinge this entire assembly up and over, so just allow for some clearance, pushing all of this here out of the way. You can then turn your attention here to this region, disengage this, hinge this up, disengage this section, hinge this up also, and this here will come over the top and will snap into place really securely. We can then bring this section here up and over, and then turn your attention here to this plate, lift this up, and then just angle this here down. It's very difficult to do so as this figure is very fiddly and there is a significant parts count. Rotate this in, snap that into place and hinge this up. Of course, come here to this side and repeat the exact same process. Something which is worth noting is that for robot mode, the arm guards will be like this. For vehicle mode, you're just going to want to click them outwards so that they sit slightly more flush and so that you can indeed roll him along the ground. We can then take this section and snap this in there nice and securely, and repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just clip that in there, and you can see that we do get a slot here that will peg into this tab, a slot here that will peg into this tab, and a huge tab that will peg into this slot. So just bring the doors all the way in and align this up appropriately, and you can see that there are just parts completely flying off this Bumblebee. It's as if Hasbro have just released the Transformers The Last Night version, so certainly be wary of this. Fold this in, snap this into place also, and here we have the ROTF Bumblebee fully transformed up into his 09 Camaro. Now, any of the discrepancies that I had with his robot mode, I can almost forgive when we get him here into his 2009 Camaro alt mode. I absolutely love the look of this, and that may be partial bias, as the ROTF Bumblebee was actually my first deluxe class that I ever picked up. It was my first Hasbro Transformer that I'd ever picked up as well, so this is so nostalgic here for me, and I do actually like the subtle yet significant changes that Hasbro have made to the mould in order to be more faithful to his second live-action movie alt mode appearance. Taking a look here at the Camaro, you can see that as mentioned in the robot mode, the colours are certainly a lot more saturated on this than compared to the original 07 version, and I greatly prefer this look. I also love the metallic yellow / orange that they have indeed used. It's very difficult to actually differentiate on whether or not this is yellow or orange paint. You can see the sculpt work, very similarly to the original 07 mould, is certainly here, and it looks incredibly crisp and sharp. As we take a look here, however, to the main front section of the vehicle mode, this is for sure where you can see the significant differences when comparing to his 07 version. We now have the air duct here at the top, which I think greatly amplifies his overall look. It just made Bumblebee appear slightly more aggressive and, in my opinion, a lot more badass than the original 07 version. You can see how we've got the amazing black stripes going along here for the hood of the car. We've also got some here at the back. The entire front section here has indeed been modified in order to better match his original 09 appearance. We've got some black paintwork here for the lower section. I love all of the paintwork as well as sculpt work here to the front, and if you do transform this figure 100% correctly, he will indeed be able to roll along the ground very smoothly due to them now using pinned on wheels than as opposed to pegged on wheels. As far as comparisons are concerned, here we have him with the original 07 figure, which is very accurate to how he appeared in the movie, but just as far as personal preference is concerned, I much prefer this look. I also prefer how they have slightly darkened the transparent plastic used so that the interior and the robot mode kibble isn't as visible as it was here on the original version. Bringing them in here for a closer look, you can certainly see here the differences. Initially, I did believe it to be an optical illusion that this section here was a little thicker due to them adding the black paintwork, but just when comparing them, I can confirm that it is indeed an entirely new sculpt. I also love how they've added this section. As mentioned, it was certainly a little bit more sleeker on this older version than compared to what we got for the ROTF design, but other than that, for the most part, they are more or less identical, other than the fact that one of them is a lot darker than the other. And so, some final thoughts. Do I recommend this figure? I can't say that I do. Despite me finding his vehicle mode a lot more impressive than compared to his robot mode, I think that as a whole, this figure here is a massive letdown. I think his robot mode could have been greatly improved with additional paintwork, especially as this figure for the most part is just a repaint. They could have easily added some more paint on him, as they are saving a ton of money by not reintroducing an entirely new mold. I also think the inclusion of yet again the battle mask sculpt is a massive letdown, and is something that I was hoping they would indeed change on this particular version. The Sam Witwicky figure I find to be an absolute insult. It resembles nothing of Shia LaBeouf, it's non-articulated, and really and truly is more or less just a generic human. It has no resemblance of how he actually appeared in the Revenge of the Fallen movie. It is of course his 07 movie look, which I find also a massive insult, as he should have been packaged with perhaps the original version and not this figure. The transformation is of course the same as what we got with the previous version. The vehicle mode I find to be the better out of the two modes. I do like how they have modified the entire front section of the vehicle in order to better match the 09 Camaro design, and I love the darker, more saturated colour that we have for the overall colour scheme. But when considering what we could have got from this figure, overall I just find this to be a really big letdown, and if this is any indication as to what the buzzworthy Bumblebee line has in store for us, I can easily say that this line will be an easy pass for me. So overall, that just about wraps up my review. I do apologise if I wasn't as positive as I have been in previous reviews. I just found this to be so lazy, as if Hasbro had just spent a little more time and money onto this figure, we could have got the better out of the two molds. I really hope that you enjoyed this review and that you did find it informative. I would love to know down in the the comment section below on whether or not you actually plan on adding the Revenge of the Fallen Bumblebee to your collection. Do you like that they have included this Sam Witwicky? Am I being too harsh on this figure? Be sure to let me know all of that down in the comments, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bumblebee! Bumblebee! Optimus! Bumblebee! Optimus!